There has been a lot of talk in the past few years about the brand Ginault's past and origins. However, these have all been allegations and I'm not here to talk about that. I am, however, going to be fully transparent and tell you that this watch was sent to the channel and no, I don't have to return it, but the brand has no control over what I say. Spoiler alert, the quality of this watch is so good I would have bought this watch with my own money. So how did this watch even make it to the studio? You see, I got an email from John over at Ginault. He reached out to me and said, and I quote, "I watched your videos and heard you mention that you got turned down by watch brands in the past simply because you were too small. I really wish that I knew about your work then or that you would have reached out to me. I would have been more than happy to sponsor your channel and collaborate with you." End quote. He then proceeded to tell me about what goes into putting these watches together, and it's crazy, a lot of emails. Ginault was founded and is operated by watchmakers and machinists. You see, they hand build each and every single watch here in the US, and they try to source most of the parts here in the US. For example, their main metal parts such as the mid cases, the case backs, the bezel assemblies, and crowns. Before receiving the watch, I had a lot of mixed emotions. I had heard nothing but great things about Ginault watches, but I was nervous to feature one on the channel because, well, I was fearful that you, my loyal supporters, would come at me with pitchforks. However, this is an objective review and as such, we will focus purely on the watch. An interesting thing to note is that this is the first time Ginault designed their own watch, as the Ocean Rover series was more of an homage of the Rolex Submariner. The name Silent Service originated from the US Navy Submariner fleet, so it's very fitting that they named their first design in honor of such cool history and of course the military. The design of the watch and its bezel resembled a cross-section of the submarine. This watch had been on the drawing board since 2010, and I think for us enthusiasts, it was worth the wait. The watch can be ordered with a date or without a date. You can also pick from two types of ceramic lume bezels, a Pan America 42 60-minute countdown indicator or a 120-click unidirectional bezel. I personally went with the no-date 120-click unidirectional bezel option. Let me tell you a little bit about the packaging. I appreciate the simplicity of the packaging. That just tells me that all the money was spent on the actual watch. As you dig deeper into the box, you are greeted with a report showing you the performance of the movement. In this case, it's a Lita SW200 elaborate grade that has been tested in 5 positions over the course of 6 weeks. As if that wasn't enough, the warranty card actually had my name printed on it, and they included a branded cleaning cloth and a flathead screwdriver to size the bracelet. This, along with the multiple detailed emails I received from John, stopped me in my tracks and made me realize this wasn't the typical microbrand I'm used to working with. No, this company operates very different. They take extreme pride in what they do, and because a lot of collectors turned against them during the conspiracy period, they want to show the world their capabilities. Honestly, you can tell they're not producing watches to just fatten up their pockets, as these watches are not mass produced. They are producing watches for the love of horology, and I can respect that. Okay, so let's get to the watch. This video so far sounds more like a love letter to the brand, but I promise you I do have some constructive criticism for the brand. It's not all unicorns and rainbows for me. The entire watch is constructed of 316L stainless steel. The case measures in at 41mm, is 47mm from lug to lug. It's 12.1mm thick. It has 20mm lugs, a water resistance of 300 meters. The entire watch with the incised bracelet weighs in at 148 grams. And the watch features a triple layer optometry grade anti-reflective sapphire crystal. The case is hand finished, and in person you can really tell the level of detail and time that went into finishing this case. It has a mixture of brushing and polishing throughout. The bevels on the case really are on par with the Tudor Black Bay 58, and even with my Submariner 16610, it's that good. I also like that this case has no crown guards. That vintage aesthetic is always very appealing to me. However, I would have preferred a drill case for easier strap changes, as changing straps on this watch was really not that easy. Look, I've experienced a lot of different watches from a lot of different brands at a lot of different price points, and this to me feels premium for sure. The signed screw-down crown is located at the 3 o'clock and it measures in at 7.2mm. The crown is very easy to operate. Screwing it in, screwing it out, feels very, very smooth. There are several outstanding features about this watch, but one that really left me a little speechless was the bezel action. Guys, I cannot put this into words. The audible sound and feel is next level. I even did a little test with my Black Bay 58 and the Submariner, and this watch went toe to toe with both of them. Let's be clear, in my humble opinion, the Submariner has the best bezel action in the business, so the fact that this micro-brand watch that costs $8,000 less is not that far off is remarkable. Also, let's not dismiss the fact that the bezel, just like the case, is finished very well and has a beautiful design. However, the edges of the bezel do feel a little rough, but I'm assuming that was done intentionally for better grip when the watch is wet. Nonetheless, smoother edges would have been very nice. Under that AR sapphire crystal, we find a superfine matte dial with forged applied indices that have been hand assembled, bevel sword hour and minute hands that have been rhodium plated, and a custom red Ginault seconds hand. At the 12 o'clock, we find the company logo along with the words Kinetic Continuous. At the 6 o'clock, in red text, the name of the model, Silent Service. And below that, in white text, the water resistance information, the words Submersible Maritime, Precision Chronometer, and Hand Built in America. All in all, I like the MOD military aesthetic. The dial gives me those Omega Seamaster Professional 300 vibes. Remember how I was really impressed by that bezel action? Here's the second thing that blew me away: the lume. I love when dive watches have good lume, and this, my friends, uses Ginault Glowing Smurfs lume, which is comparable to pure Super Luminova BGW9. As you can tell, the lume is extremely bright and has been applied on the hands, indices, and bezel. Just for fun, I wanted to see the lume compared to my Black Bay 58 and Submariner 16610, and well, I think this watch glowed just a little bit brighter. I was really curious at that point, and just for giggles, I decided to bring my Seiko SPB143 into the mix, since that's the watch with the brightest lume in my collection, and well, the Silent Service had the upper hand due to the lume on the bezel. The initial high-level lume will fade gradually in about 15 minutes, however, the low-level lume will be visible for over 12 hours. On the back of the watch, we find a screw-down case back with some information about the watch, but the middle of the case is an open canvas, perfect for engraving. The solid in-link oyster-style bracelet feels really well constructed, just like the case. It uses screws to size it, and just like the case, it features a mixture of brushed and polished surfaces. This new generation of bracelet has tighter tolerances than the previous generations, and the slightly retrofitted clasp enhances the comfort when on the wrist. One very cool feature is the on-the-fly adjustment system that can be adjusted in 2mm intervals. This watch on my 6 7/8 inch wrist, that's 17.43 centimeters, fits very comfortable. However, one of the biggest criticisms for me is the fact that the bracelet along with the clasp look very much like the Rolex ones. I really hope that Ginault keeps the level of finishing and creates their own unique designs for future models. The fact that this watch features 20mm lugs means there are plenty of options when it comes to straps. An interesting thing to note is that this FKM rubber strap from Horace actually fit like a glove. Now, this particular strap was manufactured for a Rolex Submariner. Therefore, if you want that cool integrated look, anything that fits a sub should definitely fit this watch. The movement being used in this Silent Service is the Swiss-made Sellita SW201 elaborate grade. With 5-position, 6-week regulation for awesome accuracy, the SW201 is an alternative, of course, to the ETA 2824-2. The movement beats at 28,800 beats per hour. That provides a nice smooth sweep of the seconds hand. You get 26 joules and a 38 power reserve. Now, the movement can be hacked and you can unwind it. This watch is labeled as a precision chronometer, as it's factory regulated to meet cost chronometer requirements of -4 + 6 seconds per day. As I showed you in the beginning of the video, a 6-week accuracy report is included in the package for your specific watch. Therefore, the movement being used in this watch, in my opinion, for the price, is fantastic. Now that we've covered the overall specs of the watch, how do I actually feel about the watch? Do I think it's worth the $1,500 price point? Look, if you're looking for brand history and hate controversies, then this is not the watch for you. However, if you're a true watch enthusiast, then you don't need me to tell you how good this watch is and what great value Ginault is offering. It is very evident that this watch far exceeds the price point, and it really puts things into perspective for me. I've handled watches much more expensive than this, and they don't feel premium like this one does. A lot of the big boys are simply relying on the brand name to charge crazy amounts of money. The watch is not perfect. The lack of originality of the bracelet needs to be addressed at some point. I wish the watch had drill lugs for easier strap changes or maybe a quick release on the bracelet, and the edges of the bezel need to be smoothed out. Overall, the watch gets a pass for me, and I would highly recommend it to my friends and family. Let me know what you think of this watch. Would you rock it? What do you like about it? What do you dislike about it? Thank you all so much for the continued support. Take care and stay humble.